want to thank you for making some time today to be a part of our presentation here on ShopperFest. My name is Rich Bradley, and I'll be your host for the next half hour or so on the different things that we've got going on for ShopperFest. Hopefully, many of you are already registered for ShopperFest, and if not, if you're here with some questions, we'll be able to give you an overview of what the event is like and what will be going on and when and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go through quickly on the presentation, and then I can open it up for some questions in the end. So again, we're looking at ShopperFest at Sea this year, something that Jason Bear, who's with us today, has been campaigning for many years. And we finally figured out how we could pull that off. So Jason, thank you for the inspiration. And we're really kind of excited to be able to do this annual conference at Sea for once. So the ShopperFest conference, if you haven't been before, is a conference that's put on by MSPA Americas for the benefit of our independent contractor class of membership. It is usually, in fact, it has always been on a weekend, and it is put on largely by the board of directors, but there are also some other owners and executives of other MSPA companies who provide the content for the weekend. So those are your speakers and panelists. In other words, the reason that's important is you're getting the information right from the people who actually contract with companies to do projects. It's not hearsay, it's information from the people who actually you take these projects and assignments from. So sort of straight from the horse's mouth. So this conference is held once a year, typically in May or June, to bring everybody together. And it's not just the education, it's the networking with the companies, it's the networking with each other, and it's the educational elements we do and the fun that we have. We do definitely have a lot of fun with this group. If anybody's been before, I'm sure you could probably talk about that too. All right, well, let's get into it then. Well, let's try to get into it. There we go. So again, this is sort of the dates and the itinerary. It's the Independence of the Sea. That's a Royal Caribbean ship, and it leaves from Port Canaveral. The closest airport is Orlando. It's about 45 minutes from there. So you would either Uber or there are buses that go from there. You could book those in advance. That would be something you do kind of on your own since everybody's coming in at different times. But that would be the closest airport is Orlando. So we're leaving Friday and we're coming back on Monday. And while we're at sea, we'll be visiting two ports, Nassau in the Bahamas, the capital of the Bahamas, and Coco Cay, which is Royal Caribbean's private island. So it is only Royal Caribbean guests. It will only be people from our ship on the island. We'll have the whole island. Pretty cool thing. And you'll see some pictures of that coming up. All right, so what are the things that we want to go over today? Well, kind of what is ShopperFest if you're not familiar? A little bit about the ship, what the itinerary looks like, how to book if you haven't booked yet. And then finally, I know a lot of you have questions about health and safety. We are in between two Royal Caribbean meetings here. So last night we met with some of the Royal Caribbean executives, and I have some answers to a lot of these things. Tomorrow, I'll actually be walking this ship in the morning to look at our space and some of those other things. So there may be a question or two that you have that we'll have to do as a follow-up. But most of the information I think you're looking for, we should have today. All right, so let's talk about ShopperFest itself. As I mentioned, it's a series of education sessions which are led by owners and executives of not just mystery shopping companies, but retail service provider companies, merchandising companies, as our association is continuing to grow and expand. It's very interactive. It's not meant to be us sort of downloading stuff to you. We will do some of that, but it's very important that we have sort of a living dialogue through the weekend. So we encourage a lot of participation. And again, I talked about the networking, not just with the provider companies, but also with other independent contractors. Some of our folks on this call have been to many ShopperFests, and they have so much to share from other years and from their own personal life experience. So the networking is pretty critical. just want to point out, these were the sponsors who came to last year's ShopperFest, which was in Houston last year. And I share this, first of all, to say thank you, because some of those may be on the call, but also to give you an idea of how many companies typically show up at ShopperFest and who they are. So you might recognize some of those companies. You might be doing some work for them as a contractor. And there may be a bunch on there that you've never heard of, and this is your opportunity to get to meet some of those folks. Let's talk about the ship very briefly. It's won 23 awards. It was completely refurbished in 2018. It's a larger ship with 15 decks, and it holds 3,800 passengers. Right now, Royal Caribbean is selling at about 70%. So if they were to sell out on our ship, which they are not just yet, that would probably be, by rough calculations, maybe probably 2,600 passengers. They have a buffet and takeaway food. Of course, they also have sit-down dining. Now, they have free dining and they have dining that you pay for. Unless you really have a hankering for something at one of the premium restaurants where you have to pay, let me tell you, the main dining room food is extraordinary. You don't really have to pay. I would just stay on the main plan. And we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. And there's lots of activities included, including an on-ship production of grease. So lots of things to do. There's trivia, there's different games and contests. And we have built, as you'll see in a second, an agenda that will allow you to do a lot of fun activities and see the ports, in addition to the education that you would get at ShopperFest. So let's move on to a little bit more here. This is sort of a picture, obviously, of the ship and some of the different elements. Several pools. That's the main dining room. The grease production. A typical, that would be an outdoor view cabin. And that's a sort of a high shot of the buffet. The buffet is open most of the day. So in addition to eating in the dining room, there are a couple restaurants that you can get food. You can pretty much get food 24 hours a day. Again, we'll talk about the food here in just a little bit. All right, let me stop and see what's in the chat here. And, oh, thanks, Laura. Laura's taking care of that for me. Appreciate that. All right, let's keep moving on then. Let's talk about the itinerary. So we leave Friday at 4 o'clock. Now, some of you may not have cruised before. So that means the ship is scheduled to pull out of the port by 4 o'clock. That doesn't mean that you can show up at 3:45. When you book, you should get a booking time to show up at the port. Typically, everybody needs to be on board by 3 o'clock. Generally, the earliest you can maybe get on is about 10 or 11. And we do have some things that start in the early afternoon, which I'll share with you in a moment. But we should be pulling out of the port at 4 o'clock. And then we'll have some sessions that night too. Saturday, we've got some sessions, and then you'll have the rest of the day to spend in Nassau. Sunday, we have sessions and the day in Coco Cay. Now, on Sunday, the way that we are set up is that our sessions on Sunday will be Sunday night, so that you get to enjoy most of the day laying on the beach at Coco Cay or doing any of the water activities. And then we're back Monday morning. Typically pull into port around 7. They usually, these days, they would pull into port in around 7 in the past, and they would say, okay, we're back, bye, get off our boat. These days, most cruise lines, and I believe Royal Caribbean, I'll check tomorrow, but they allow you to have breakfast before you leave, but you do need to be off the ship, typically by 9:30 kind of deal. All right, so this may be a little harder to see, so I'm gonna probably swap out and go to the actual Excel sheet because it's a little bit more color coded. So I'm going to stop the share here for a second and pull up that sheet. Okay. So this might be a little easier to read. So on Friday, we'll have certification courses going on from 2 to 3:30. So if you haven't taken any certification courses, MSPA is the official trade association for our industry, offers online certification courses in different subject areas, and you can take those at any time. What we do at ShopperFest is we also offer them in person. It's the same course. It doesn't cost any more or less. It's simply that if you want to take the course with somebody to kind of guide you through and do a review of the material, and then you can test for your certification on site, we offer that at ShopperFest. So we'll be announcing what those courses will be shortly. Actually, we have 2 more meetings scheduled up. The next meeting, we'll be announcing the actual session titles and what courses will be offered. Now, one thing about courses, if you want, we have basic courses, what we call core courses, and we have advanced courses. So if you want to take an advanced course, you must finish your core courses first. Pretty much everybody here probably, if you're an IC Plus member, you've taken Intro to Mystery Shopping. That's one of the 3 core courses. The other 2 are professional report writing and professional responsibility and ethics. Those 3 have to be taken before you can take Retail 1 or airports or anything like that. So we do offer 2 of the basic courses, the writing course and the ethics course at ShopperFest. But if you took the writing course on Friday and the ethics course on Saturday, you wouldn't be able to, there's no more slots to take an advanced course. So if you haven't taken those and you want to take an advanced course, once you see what we're offering, I would get those done online before you get on the ship. That way you'll have your core courses done, and then you can take pretty much anything that is offered on the agenda. So for those people who want to take those will be offered from 2 to 3:30. I should say with a big asterisk here that when we go on the ship tomorrow, everything because of COVID and getting back into service, everything is fluid with the cruise lines. So this itinerary may change, the rooms may change by the time we get to our next meeting. I'm 90% sure though this is pretty much locked in as terms of what we're doing. So if you're not taking a certification course, then get on the ship and enjoy yourself. Usually the Windjammer Buffet is open when you walk on, and so you can go and have lunch. At 3:30, we will have a first-time attendee meeting. Not required to be there, but if it is your first time at ShopperFest, or if it's your first time cruising and you want to ask some questions about, what should I expect on the boat this weekend, you'll want to come to that meeting. At 4 o'clock, we're scheduled to sail away from Port Canaveral. Typically, the ship will do like a sail away party up on the upper deck by the pools. And so we're planning on being up there as well to enjoy that sail away with you all. Then you see, we don't have anything until 6 o'clock. So you'll have time to get settled in your room, explore the ship. And our first ShopperFest sessions will be from 6 to 7:45. Afterwards, we have dinner at 8 o'clock. Now we're going to have dinner at 8 o'clock all weekend, and here's why. There are 2 seatings at 6 and 8. I know 8 is kind of later for some of you. I know people like Doug Rector are already typically in bed by 8 o'clock. But in order to maximize your time in the ports, as well as get your ShopperFest time in, it just makes sense to do the later dinner. Now, I do want to say that we will have, I've been asked this already, are we all eating together? We have space to do that. If, however, you're tired of seeing me or somebody else and you want to go do your own thing, you're obviously not required. But for those who want to stay together to network and chat, they will set space aside in the dining room that is just for our group for dinner, only for dinner. For breakfast and lunch, you can just do your own thing, meet up with your friends, go by yourself, whatever you want to do. But for dinner, they will reserve space for us, and you can sit with us if you want or do your own thing. After we finish dinner, 9 o'clock-ish, it's free time on your own. Again, I know for some of you that's late, but for those of you who are night owls, the casino's open. There will be probably a late addition of Greece or whatever other shows are going on. So typically, I mean, this is not an unusual thing, and you know this if you've cruised. There's an early seating and a late seating, and if you go on the early seating, then you're doing the entertainment at this time, and if you do the late seating, they have other options. So you won't necessarily miss everything just because you're eating late. Okay, so that's our first day. Basically, we have our opening session where you'll get to meet with some sponsors and MSPs, and then we'll have dinner. And then Saturday, we arrive in Nassau at 8 o'clock. However, our sessions are in the morning. We obviously encourage you to be at the sessions, but you can do what you want. So you would have breakfast on your own. Now, for breakfast, you can go to the dining room or you can go to the Windjammer buffet. Again, this is all included. So you don't have to pay for dinner. You don't have to pay for breakfast if you go to these places. Our Saturday sessions will go from 9 to 11:30. And then you're free, really, it says 12 to 5, but you're really free from 11:30 or whenever to go explore Nassau. Now, if you're already registered with Royal Caribbean and you want to do a shore excursion, you can do that. Now, you would not want to do a 10 o'clock one if you want to be in sessions, but they typically have morning and afternoon shore excursions. So you can look on the site and you would book directly with Royal Caribbean for whatever shore excursions you want to do. You can also, of course, have lunch. Again, most of the dining is available. If not 24 hours, it's available pretty much all day. So if you want to, when we finish at 11:30 and then you want to grab lunch and then get off the boat and explore Nassau, you have plenty of time to do that. I'm going to tell you on the 2 ports that we go to, I put the time that Royal Caribbean lists, right? So they say we're leaving Nassau at 5. But just for your planning, typically you need to be back on the boat an hour before. So it's probably more like 12 to 4 that you have in Nassau. And again, the shore excursion people know that. So that doesn't prohibit you from doing an afternoon shore excursion. So once we're back on board, we do have some more certification courses that afternoon. If you don't want to take them, then you've got more free time to enjoy the ship. And then we'll get together again at 6 o'clock to do our ShopperFest sessions, our second group of sessions for that day. And then the evening is the same. We'll do dinner at 8 for those who want to join. And then after that, there's plenty to do on the ship yet at 9 o'clock. All right, so finally on Sunday, we get to Coco Cay at 7 a.m. Do breakfast whenever you want. We don't actually get together on Sunday until 6 o'clock. You pretty much can, explore the island, swim, do whatever you want to do, but pretty much, there's plenty to do on Coco Cay, and you have the opportunity. You've now made friends over the weekend. You've also known who you want to avoid, so you can move to the other side of the beach. But by Sunday, we've hit most of our sessions, and we'll do some wrap-up stuff at 6 o'clock to roughly 7:45. Then it'll be our last dinner together that night, and you're on your own. So that is sort of a quick rundown of the weekend. I'm going to stop and go back to the PowerPoint. I'll give you a little bit more information here. Okay. And let me get us back to where we were. Okay. So the meals, what they call the non-premium meals are included. That's the main dining room. That's the Windjammer buffet. That's Sorrento's Pizza. And then there's one other place, and I'm going to show you those. As I mentioned, we will have space available to dine together. I encourage it because it's not just the people next to you, but those people do have good networking opportunities and information to pass along, but also the MSPs will join us as well. They do have premium restaurants. If you want to book a premium restaurant, you can go in advance to the Royal Caribbean site and make that booking. You will also need to download the Royal Caribbean app, and at one of our later sessions, we'll talk more about that. But the cool thing is that everybody's going green, right? So they don't do a lot of paper stuff anymore. but you can find out what's going on the ship. You can book reservations for a specialty dining place. You can do all this on the app. So we'll talk about that at one of the later sessions. And your basic drinks are included. So by basic drinks, it's not much. It's water, tea, lemonade, juices in the morning for breakfast. So even if you want a soda or if you want any kind of alcoholic drink, they do have beverage packages. Again, you would book that directly with Royal Caribbean. And if you're already registered, you can go online to your account and you can add that to your account now. So these are the different restaurants that are included. The top left corner is the dining room again, the main dining room. The top right corner is the Windjammer Buffet. Bottom left is Sorrento's. They have pizza and sandwiches and I think salad there. And then the Cafe Promenade also has some takeaway stuff like burgers and hot dogs, things like that. So all of these restaurants are included as much as you want. Now, to give you an idea, like, well, is the main dining room kind of lousy food, or, you know, should we do something? Should we pay? Well, here's a typical, this is just a typical menu from the main dining room. And you can see they have some good stuff on there. I mean, they've got prime rib, they've got chicken, seafood, salmon, strip steak. So it's not bad food at all, really. That's why, again, I would encourage you to just stick with the main dining room unless there's something you really specially want to do on there. You can see that you can add on also in the main dining room. Like if you want to add a whole lobster, you can add that on. These things at the bottom are the add-ons, but anything up top here is all included. And one of the secrets that people don't know, if you haven't been on a cruise ship before or haven't been on many, you can order as much as you want. So if you want to do sort of your own surf and turf because you're torn between the New York Strait and the salmon, you can order them both and have your own sort of surf and turf kind of deal. So the desserts are fantastic. If you're like, I really love creme brulee, but I really want to try their cheesecake, you can order them both. So it's almost like a sit-down buffet. It's just sit-down service. But the food, again, is usually very, very good here. All right, let's talk about Nassau real quickly. It's the capital of the Bahamas. You have this free time to explore on Saturday. You can book shore excursions with Royal Caribbean, or you can just visit at your leisure. I'm going to show you a picture here of the actual port. I mean, this is the port, but you can't see the ship. Figure the ship would be sort of sitting parallel to the dock here. So you walk off to the dock, you go through, this is the that building with the green roof here. It's sort of like their customs building, which is not a big deal, by the way. You just walk through it, and then you're out on the street. There's something they call the straw market, which is kind of a flea market that is 2 blocks over. There's Junkanoo Beach is maybe a 10-15 minute walk from there. It's a small beach, but if you want to walk to a beach and you don't want to go further into that island, you can do that. You can also just explore the streets and visit shops, but it's very, very close. So here's the picture I was talking about. This second ship and this fourth ship are probably Royal Caribbean ships, but you can see, you know, there might be 2 ships, 5 ships. They all pull in and dock. You walk through the dock and you walk through the town. If you can see my pointer, this area down here is Junkanoo Beach. So you can see it's not a very far walk. Unfortunately, you can't cut straight through. You would just come through, walk down the street, and then you have to go around and come back down there. But this is all very much walking distance to spend a few hours. They have glass bottom boat rides. They have snorkeling. They have tours of official tours of the town. So there's plenty to do, sort of whatever you'd like to spend your day doing. Now, as I mentioned, Coco Cay is Royal Caribbean's private island. So it's only going to be us on the island that day. And you pretty much have the whole day to do what you want to do there. So again, you can just get off the boat and grab a free chair on the beach. You can rent a cabana. And if you're going to do that, I would rent that in advance so that you make sure you get one. But you do all that stuff through Royal Caribbean. And there's a little look at Coco Cay. You see the ship parks off there and you just walk right off the ship down the dock and go enjoy yourself on the island. All right, health and safety. Now, some folks have been asking about this, and I understand why. So you have to be vaccinated, and you have to bring your original vaccination card. You can't bring a photocopy. You can't bring a copy on your phone. You have to bring the original card. And you do have to be vaccinated. There are some cruise lines that are allowing unvaccinated, but Royal is not one, unfortunately. We lost a lot of people who had originally signed up, but for medical reasons or whatever, they couldn't get vaccinated. And so unless that policy changes, it's only vaccinated people on board. You do have to do a COVID test within 48 hours of your departure. You need to test negative, and you need to bring proof of that test with you. Now, that can be digital. In fact, many of the testing places send you your results digital. So basically what we're talking about here, we're leaving on Friday. Anytime on Wednesday or Thursday, you have to do a COVID test. Now, they'll take PCR or they'll take antigen. My recommendation is antigen. That's where they basically clean the boogers out of your nose. The PCR is the one where they drive the steel spike up into your brain. They'll take either test, but the PCR is the one that hurts a lot. The antigen one is the one that's not as painful. In fact, it's not painful at all. They'll take either one. Just make sure you do it on Wednesday or Thursday. They're totally serious on this for safety reasons, as you would want. If you don't do it, you can't get on. If you don't have your original Vax card, you can't get on. So make sure you bring your card, and make sure you do either the PCR or the antigen test on Wednesday or Thursday. The day before, so in other words, on Thursday, they will email you a health declaration that you must fill out and submit online. It is very simple. Being that Michael and I are going to visit the ship tomorrow, we had to do that as well. We have to do all this stuff, right? And it took literally about 20 seconds to fill out. It's type your name in, your information, and then, have you been experiencing symptoms? Have you been around it? It's just click the buttons, sign your name at the bottom, and send it back in. So not a big deal. You will be asked health questions at the port, but you won't be tested at the port. And again, make sure you do your COVID test before, because they don't test you at the port. They'll just unfortunately tell you, sorry, you can't get on the boat. Masks are no longer required anywhere on the ship. That was dropped about 3 weeks ago, industry-wide. So all cruise ships have pretty much dropped mask requirements, except in the port, because the port is a government building, just like an airport. And so it's under federal law, and they do require it. So you do need to bring a mask. I'm sure they have them if you happen to forget, but you will need to wear a mask in the terminal. Once you get on the boat, you can take your mask off. You won't need it till you disembark. And finally, and this was good news as well, you may be aware, the CDC had put restrictions, not restrictions, but they had put an advisory of, they didn't feel it was safe, in their opinion, and they're overly cautious to cruise. Okay, they have completely eliminated that yesterday. In other words, according to the CDC, cruise ships do not present any kind of extraordinary health risk. So the cruise ship people were really glad to hear that. That was been their opinion for a while, but now the CDC has mentioned that too. Okay, so just to recap, this is what you need to bring for boarding. People say, do I need a passport? This is what's called a closed-end itinerary, which means you start in the US and you come back to the US. So no, you don't need a passport. But you will, if you don't have a passport, you'll need a birth certificate and your driver's license or a government picture ID. Note that both of those have to be valid for at least 6 months after the cruise, so after you get back. Now, that said, some of you may have seen that a Norwegian ship ran aground in one of the Caribbean islands. That rarely happens, but we did have some friends on that ship, and they only brought their birth certificate and driver's license, and it took them longer to get home. So the ship couldn't move. So what they were doing was they were giving everybody a refund, and they were giving everybody future cruise credit. And then they were, I think it was in Santo Domingo or someplace like that. And so they were taking people off the ship, and at Norwegian's expense, they were flying them home. But they were taking the people with the passports first, because it wasn't Norwegian that had the issue. It was the country that had the issue of, you want to bring these people in and they don't have a passport, you know, so they did get home and they got that worked out. But, you know, that's one of the reasons to bring a passport if you have it. The people who had the passports went home first. Everybody else had to hang out on the ship for a couple of days until they could get clearance to get them home. Okay, so you need that identification. You need, as we talked about, the vaccine card. You have to bring that with you. And then you need the negative COVID test that's taken either Wednesday or Thursday, and bring evidence of that. Again, this can be antigen or PCR. Antigen is the painless one. PCR, think of P for pain. PCR is the painful one. And then you need to do the health questionnaire the day before you board. So now you can still buy, we reactivated pricing. We talked to Royal last night about reactivating pricing on our website. So you can still buy the cruise on our website. If you make your own reservations, and a couple of you have some deals, that's fine. And then you pay separately to us for the registration for ShopperFest, which is $175. If you buy any of these packages, everything is included. Now, some people will go, well, I looked on Royal Caribbean and it's only this much. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Our pricing here is out the door, which means no additional taxes, no fees, no gratuities. That's all included in the package. What a lot of the cruise lines do, including Royal, is they'll put a low price out, but that's just the cruise. Then you got to add $119 for port fees and taxes. Then you got to add gratuities on top of that. So, you know, if you do see a lower price and you've gone all the way to the checkout page and it's still showing lower than what we've been given as a group rate, and don't forget to add in your $175 for your registration. If you still have that, come to us and we'll go to Royal and try to get that squared away for you. But all out the door: cruise, taxes and fees, port charges, gratuities, and ShopperFest registration. We should have the lower price. Where do you book? You go to our website, and right up there in that top right corner, you just click on that, and that will take you to the booking stuff. Now, there'll be 2 more webinars on the schedule. The last overview, where we will announce the titles of the sessions, will be April 20th. And we're going to do that one in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And then on May 4th, everybody who is registered will have a webinar just for you guys for any last minute changes, for any last minute questions. It's you know, a little bit more than a week out. So there's the opportunity for us, if you have any last minute things, to make an adjustment on. So those are our next 2 ShopperFest webinars. So with that in mind, I am going to go back and take any questions that anybody has, or also if anybody wants to, you know, I see like Laura Ricketts there, Doug, I see people who have been to ShopperFest before. If there's anything, Elaine, Marguerite, you guys want to add, go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and let us know what you're thinking.
Hi, Rich, it's Liz here, Doug's wife. We actually checked in yesterday or the day before. The check-in is available now. To do that, you have to download their app, but the check-in is available and you can pick your check-in time at the port too.
Nice.
I don't know if it's helpful to anybody.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
If you are undecided, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be awesome. ShopperFest every year is amazing, but ShopperFest at sea, oh my goodness, we are going to have a great time. Do not miss this.
I'd just like to mention that the rates are based on double occupancy. So if you want to go by yourself, we can help you look around to see if we can help you find a roommate. We're not matching people together, but through our Facebook group, we can try to find some other people. So don't be put off thinking if you're going by yourself that you have to pay twice.
Laura Ricketts, I've never known you to be at a loss for words. So grace us with your thoughts, please.
I'm excited about going. I think that just based on some of the things that I've questions I've heard from different folks, people are a little concerned about the dining options. You know, will there be? And you did say yes that we'd have sort of a reserved space in the dining room for the 8 p.m. seating. I know my reservation. They asked, and I just said anytime dining. Is that okay? Will I be able to eat in that dining area, or will I have to change my reservation to say late seating?
No, and that's probably a good way for anybody. If you haven't picked yet, just choose anytime, which means basically instead of coming at 6 or 8, you can walk in whenever there's a table available. But it doesn't matter. Like, for instance, Doug, if you and Liz have already booked and you've picked the 6 o'clock, it doesn't matter. As a courtesy, what I would do is go to the maitre d' that day and say, hey, by the way, I'm not going to be coming in at 6. I'm going to be part of a group. That way they're not holding that table if somebody wants it. But yeah, Laura, you're actually in a great spot with the anytime, because you have no obligation to show up at any time.
The other question that I have is, see, you knew that I had questions.
Yeah, I know.
Will the rooms be all in the same area, or do we know how's that going to work, and when will folks get their room assignments?
I don't know the answer to that, because Royal does that themselves. And I'm also therefore not sure when they're going to assign it. We have turned over everybody who had booked through March 1st. We had turned that over to Royal. And at that point, then they do the assignments and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, we will put this online for people who were not able to join us today. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at inquiries@mspa-americas.org. We'll have somebody get back to you on that. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great weekend. We've tended to have good fun wherever we go, but I think this one is just going to be sort of off the charts. So I want to thank Jason and I'll say Laura and Marguerite. I think have kind of pushed the ShopperFest at Sea notion a little bit over the years. We're glad to finally have figured it out. We're also really happy that the COVID situation is dying down, so that it's hopefully going to bring some more people in here at the end, and I think we're going to have a great time. I've been myself on 2 cruises in the last couple months, and I just went over the top on the safety issues. If you go to the Royal site, they'll tell you all the things they're doing. Like, for instance, they're recirculating the air through filters in your own cabin, and it recirculates something like 15 times every couple minutes. So it's fresh air that's coming in and going back out all the time. And they're using these filters to filter the air that are medical grade filters. So like what we were told was, like, in our homes, if we put filters in with our air conditioning and stuff, we're using like a level 8 and they're using a level 15, which is, like I said, medical grade. They're wiping things down, even though it seems like the disease doesn't sit on surfaces just to be safe. They're always wiping things down. They've always had hand sanitizer around all over the place. They do that to avoid norovirus. So they were doing that for years anyway. But they're really doing, I think, as much as we would reasonably expect for health. And I feel that, I was on 2 other lines the last few months. The cruise lines get it. They want you to come back. They don't want you to be nervous. They don't want you stressed out. They want you to come back and have a good time. So they want you to know that they're doing everything they can to keep things safe and healthy on the ship.
Rich, I have a dumb question. I've never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
So what do you wear to dinner? Like,
Mhm.
do people just dress in shorts and shirts all the time, or do people dress up for dinner, or what's the dress code for, any of our conference times?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that has actually changed over the years. It used to be, even on a line like Carnival or Royal Caribbean, you had a couple nights where sometimes you rented tuxes or brought tuxes on board and long gowns. Not the case anymore. They describe it as smart casual. I would say it's business casual, but I would also tell you that a lot of people who get on a boat like this go, you know what, I'm on vacation. I'm wearing shorts and sandals and something comfortable. They typically in the dining room, they're not going to throw you out. Let's put it that way. You might get the skunk eye look, but if you're wearing a collared shirt, if you're a guy, a nice top if you're a woman, and then like even if you wear nice shorts, like nice kind of dressy shorts and shoes or sandals that are, they don't want basketball shorts and flip flops that look like your dog chewed them up. So and as far as our meetings go, be comfortable, because on the rest of the ship there is no dress code, so you'll see anything. So I would say come and be comfortable. That was a really good question though, because again, that has changed a lot in the last 20 years.
Does it get, are the meeting rooms, do they tend to get cold like at a hotel, or is it breezy at night? I'm just wondering for the time of year.
Yeah.
What to plan, because I went to our board meeting in January in Orlando and it was freezing and I did not plan for it to be freezing. So Sarah had to go help me go buy a coat. I don't want to buy any more clothes last minute.
She and I were just in that store a couple of days ago and she goes, this is where Elaine and I came to buy a coat. Yeah. So I don't know about the room. I've never been in a ship's conference center until tomorrow. So I'll have more information on the room tomorrow. As far as the boat goes, the Caribbean's always warm. If you get any kind of wind, it's going to be a warm breeze. So you'll be fine there. Yeah, especially in May. Definitely bring sunscreen, guys. If you're not from Florida or the Caribbean, it's not the same sun. Like if you're sitting in Pittsburgh or Kansas City, it's not the same sun. You're closer to the sun and it's more intense down there. And it is very easy to get burned, even if you're not out very much. So definitely bring some sunscreen. If you forget, you can buy it on board, but I would bring it, and also a hat. Some of you might be a little follically challenged out there, and that's not good to be out there without a hat. But even if you have a full head of hair, again, the sun is intense in the Caribbean, and it finds its way in between your little hairs and gets in there and burns your scalp. So definitely bring sun gear, sunglasses, and sunscreen.
I have one more question, Rich. Yeah. Transportation from Orlando to the port, about how long should it take? And what's the best way for somebody coming in who may not have access to a rental car? What's the best way for them to get there?
So the best way is either going to be Uber, or there might be some scheduled service. When we have that last meeting on May 4th, I'm going to give you a guideline. Like, so for instance, I'll give you one section will be transportation options, so you can book that. It's about 45 minutes. So yeah, it's 45 minutes really from terminal to terminal, I would say. Okay. And I should have mentioned that before. We're compiling just like some basic information for you. So those of you who are confirmed and registered, you'll get that, and that'll help you with your final planning. And then if hopefully if you haven't registered, if you register between now and then, you'll also get that at the time that you register. And just as a reminder, again, we have 2 webinars coming up. One more sort of like this with a little bit more detail. We'll actually tell you the sessions and who's leading them, coming up on the 20th next month. And then the week before on May 4th, for everybody who's registered, we'll go through any last minute questions and anything you need help with. If we've got to get Royal Caribbean involved, that kind of thing, we have a week to do it, kind of deal.